Here is a high-stakes dramatic war story designed with the emotional weight, cinematic visuals, and tension of a blockbuster feature film. Title: The Ashbridge Logline. During a brutal winter siege, a cynical combat engineer and a young radio operator must hold a crucial river bridge long enough for fleeing civilians to cross, knowing their orders are to blow the bridge the moment the enemy reaches the riverbank. The character's Captain Arik, 40s, a battle-weary combat engineer, taciturn, pragmatic, and burdened by years of hard decisions on the front line. Private Lena, 19, a green radio operator stationed at the forward outpost, sharp-eyed, idealistic, and determined to keep communication lines open at all costs. Sergeant Kova, 30s, Arik's fiercely loyal second-in-command, a veteran demolition specialist who trusts Arik's judgment implicitly. The story Act 1, The Frozen Line. The War of the Northern Marches had dragged into its second freezing winter. The front line had collapsed in the north, and the enemy, an armored division backed by relentless heavy artillery, was sweeping south toward the Valley of Oakhaven. The valley's only exit was the old iron bridge, a century-old stone and steel structure spanning a deep, churning river gorge. Captain Arik stood in the freezing mud, his heavy canvas coat frosted white with falling snow. Around him, his small detachment of engineers worked in silence, stringing detonation cords and wiring block charges into the bridge's main support pillars. North bank, enemy advance. Right arrow equals the old iron bridge, mined with explosives. South bank, refugee convoy / Arik and Lena's post. Inside the command bunker, Private Lena sat huddled near a vacuum tube radio, her fingers stiff from the cold as she decoded incoming transmissions through a sea of static. Lena, through radio static. Command, this is Post 7. The civilian convoy from the northern ridge is arriving, hundreds of them, but the enemy vanguard is less than 4 kilometers behind. Command, VO. Post 7, listen carefully. Under no circumstances is the enemy to capture that crossing. You hold the bridge until 6 o'clock hours. At 6:01, trigger the charges. Do not wait for late arrivals. Arik entered the bunker, stamping the snow from his boots. He met Lena's eyes. She knew what the order meant. At 6:01, anyone left on the north bank would be trapped. Act 2. The Rushing Tide. As dusk fell, the road leading to the bridge became a desperate corridor of humanity. Families pushing wooden carts, injured soldiers leaning on rifles, and military trucks crawled across the wooden planks of the old iron bridge under the dim yellow glow of emergency lamps. At 0200 hours, distant thunders echoed across the ridge. Enemy artillery had begun shelling the northern approach. 3:30 hours. A shell struck the north bank, lighting up the sky in a blinding flash of orange and black smoke. Panic erupted on the bridge. A supply truck lost traction on the icy wood, jackknifing and blocking the narrow lane. Arik jumped onto the structure alongside Sergeant Kova. Arik A. Get the winch. Clear the truck. If this lane stays blocked, nobody else gets across. Working under a hail of long-range mortar fire, Arik and his squad attached steel cables to the stalled truck and dragged it clear just as another wave of refugees poured through. Meanwhile, inside the bunker, Lena monitored the enemy's radio frequencies. The signals were getting louder, closer. Lena, Captain, enemy scouts have hit the tree line across the river. They're setting up heavy machine gun positions. Tracer fire began ripping through the falling snow, snapping against the steel girders of the bridge. Act 3. The Decision. At 6 a.m. by 5:45 a.m., the sky turned a pale, bruised purple. The main refugee column had cleared the river, but a small group, mostly elders and children led by a handful of stragglers, was still visible on the north road, running toward the crossing. Behind them, enemy armor flared on the horizon. The rumbling of heavy engine treads shook the ice beneath Arik's boots. 5:58 a.m., Sergeant Kova stood over the manual plunger box inside the trench, his thumb hovering near the safety catch. Kova, Captain, the enemy armor is at the bridgehead. If they cross onto the span, the high ground is lost. Lena, Arik, look at the road. There are still civilians 50 meters out. Arik looked from his watch to the northern bank. 5:59 a.m. An enemy light tank broke through the tree line, firing its coaxial machine gun down the center lane of the bridge. Arik sprinted onto the bridge deck, hauling a heavy smoke canister. He pulled the pin and hurled a